Sunday's epic comeback win is a couple days old, but deserves one more look.
Harper, deep right center. See you later. He tied the game. Perez lays down the bunt. Catcher pounces, throws it away. The game is tied. Unreal. Heisey, long ball, left center. See you later. Nats win. Hard to believe. Nats win.
After all the madness on Sunday, everybody around here needed a break yesterday. So coming off the day off, Harper, the Presidents, a lot of fun around the ballpark these days. Hey, why not? The guys have won 8 in a row on this field, dominating the way championships teams do, although in sometimes rather unorthodox fashion.
Yeah, we'll take the 15 strikeout game by Tanner Roark, the 16-inning win. I don't know how much more we can take of it, but it's been fun.
All right, well, tonight, Max Scherzer, we never know what's in store when Max takes them out. Pretty marquee matchup with him and young Vince Velasquez.
Yeah, said his last outing against the Marlins was very uncharacteristic. He wasn't finishing his pitches, so look for the adjustments to be made by Max Scherzer tonight. But Velasquez, mid-90s fastball to upper 90s, so we got a couple of flamethrowers on the hill tonight. Be exciting to see. Velasquez struck out 16 Padres with no walks in a complete game victory 2 starts ago.
Yeah, not that great his last time out, coming off that CG. Bryce Harper, unbelievable in Philly. How about a 7-4-11, 3 homers and 6 RBIs? So Bryce right now leading baseball with 9 homers, 23 batted in. Nats Phils, yeah, we're back in the NL East starting tonight.
Masson, brought to you by PNC Bank, for the achiever in you. By Eastern Lexus. Some things are simply impossible to ignore. The strikingly designed Lexus NX Turbo and Hybrid. And by Ocean City, Maryland. Let us show you a good time in Ocean City, Maryland. Book now at OCOcean.com. He can be larger than life, that Max Scherzer. Looking for his 108th big league win tonight. Max takes on the Phillies for the 8th time in his career. And we've got a beautiful night for baseball. A few showers in the area this morning. It's been a great afternoon. Humidity down 81 degrees. And the breeze is blowing just very gently right now. Here's the Philly lineup. And we focus in on Cesar Hernandez, who career against the Nats is hitting .313 with some extra base hits. He's their number 7 hitter. You might notice that Pete Mackanin is batting his pitcher 8th. FP will give us more on that. And here's Scherzer against the Phils.
Yeah, last start against the Marlins on the 21st allowed 5 runs on 8 hits over 5 innings. Received the 5-1 loss. Struck out 3, walked 2 through 99 pitches. Last start, the fastball averaging 92 for Max. Slider, curveball, change to go with it. Play ball.
Rendon even with a bag at third. Here we go. It's upstairs. We're underway. Right on time at 7:05 in our nation's capital. Herrera, .432 on base percentage this year. Why not bat him leadoff? He's been very selective, drawing 17 walks. Paul Goldschmidt, only guy with more. 27th year for Angel Hernandez behind the plate. Ted Barrett, the crew chief, out at second base. And a couple of young umpires at the corners, Will Little and Sean Barber. Four-pitch walk to start the game.
It's said about his last start, it wasn't a mechanical breakdown. It was just a, hey, here it is. Adjust and let's go as we set the defense for the Nats behind Max tonight. Only difference, Jose Lobaton behind the plate. Wilson Ramos.
Yeah, he had to go home. Wilson's grandfather passed away over the weekend, and Pedro Severino is here. The Syracuse ball club was at Pawtucket near Boston, and he was able to make it to D.C. So our condolences to Wilson on the passing of his grandfather, Jesus Campos. Here's Andres Blanco, the shortstop, hitting .273. Target on the outside edge. Herrera, by the way, 4 for 4 on the year. Phillies have stolen 9 bases, but they've been caught 8 times. Couple of guys who can move it at first and in the batter's box. Long hold by Scherzer and time given.
I'm surprised hitters don't do this more to Max Scherzer. If you're going to hold the ball on me as a hitter, I'm going to step out every time because you just get antsy up there and the timing disrupts you as a hitter. And we haven't really seen too many guys step out on Max. This is really the first time.
And a ball well hit to right center. Taylor can only watch it, and Max Scherzer gives up his 5th home run of the year. 2-0 Philadelphia. Max has been pretty unhittable. .239 the opponent's batting average, but he's given up the long ball pretty regularly early this season.
Well, look at the location of this. It was supposed to be away, and he kind of pulls it down the middle of the plate. When you think of Andres Blanco, you do not think of this kind of pop. I mean, he got all of this one to right center field. Warm night at Nats Park, ball carrying, 2-0 Phils.
Big breaking ball to Maikel Franco, who might have thought he was getting a first pitch fastball. Phillies have now hit 18 home runs on the year. They're 9th in the league. The Nats are 7 with 23, and that's just outside. That was Andres Blanco's first home run of the year and the 12th of his big league career. Yeah, last time out in Miami, Marcell Ozuna got him with a 3-run homer in the first inning. Last Thursday, when the Nats were trying to take 3 out of 4 in that Miami series.
And Max talking about not finishing his pitches. What does that mean? Well, you know, as a hitter, when you see Bryce with his right hand saying stay through it, staying through the swing, creating the backspin, the same goes for a pitcher. If you're spinning off toward your dugout and kind of flying open with your front side, you don't have that late hop on your pitches.
This one a slow roller to the left side for Anthony Rendon.
You remember that was the adjustment that Steven Strasburg made. His second time off the disabled list was staying on line, really reaching through the target and actually trying to throw the ball through Wilson Ramos or Jose Lobaton versus just to him. So we'll see how this unfolds for Max tonight. And like I said last start, you feel like he's going to make the adjustment and there's nothing to panic about.
Yeah, 5 home runs all year. 3 of them have been first inning shots. So here's Ryan Howard, and the matchup between these two has been very interesting. 10 strikeouts, part of it. 1 RBI, a small part of it. Ryan Howard against Max Scherzer, 1 for 16. Big shift on. Danny Espinosa out by Ted Barrett, the crew chief, short right center. Murphy further out in right. And this ball popped up short center field. Taylor. Let's go inside the numbers with Jeep. So look at the ERAs. Who would have thought that Max Scherzer by far would have the highest ERA of the starters? Joe Ross has been outstanding. Tanner Roark coming off 15 Ks. Strasburg and Gio have been nothing but very good and consistent so far.
Well, you feel like Max is going to figure it out. So in the meantime, everybody else picking up the slack, and Mike Maddox not worried about his ace. I'll tell you that.
Here's Cameron Rupp. Rupp 2 for 9 with a home run against Max Scherzer career. Getting the catching duty call tonight. 2 for 9 against Max. Fastball inside.
You know, Max has so many weapons, but it all is predicated by his fastball, the velocity and the command of it. When that's on, it makes all of his other pitches so much more nasty, because as a hitter, you have to respect it.
A fastball slammed off the mask of Jose Lobaton. Got him. Off speed, breaking down and away. So a good bounce back by Max Scherzer. After the walk and the homer, the Nats have been scoring a lot of first inning runs themselves. Welcome to the ballpark, folks. Long way to go tonight. Was the difference, and the Phillies lead 2-0 as the Nats come up. 10th in the league in hitting, 9th in runs, 7th in home runs, and Jason Worth 200 recently back in there, got the batting average over 200 now. Last 5 games, 5 for 16, couple of long balls. And Worth always seems to light up a bit at the sight of Philly pitching, although the Nats haven't had to deal with Vince Velasquez before.
I'm excited to see this guy pitch. Fastball 94 miles an hour. It has some late cut to it. Pretty good curveball, 12-6. Last start on the 19th against the Mets, he received the 11-1 loss, 4 in the third inning, 5 runs on 5 hits, a couple homers, 4 strikeouts. But 2 starts ago against the Padres, he struck out 16 and walked nobody. And when you talk about his fastball, it's got a lot of late jump in the strike zone. And I'm really excited to see this guy pitch. I think I just said that, but I said it again.
Well, you always wonder, young pitcher coming off a complete game, what's he going to be like for the next start or two? Fastball riding at 94.
His body and his delivery remind me of Trevor Hoffman as a young pitcher. You know, the wide shoulders, the leg kick, how he brings his hands over his head. You remember early on in his career, Trevor Hoffman threw in the mid to upper 90s. Everyone thinks about his changeup, but he used to throw hard.
And a good take by Michael A. Taylor on a pitch up high. Taylor 12 for 65 on the year. 23 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2-2 pitch.
A tremendous athlete, field his position well, he can hit. In that 16 strikeout game, Carp, 20 swings and misses on his fastball. That's the most ever in a pitch FX era. Tying Max Scherzer, Matt Harvey, and David Price.
Yeah, originally drafted by Houston, part of the Ken Giles trade. Out of Pomona, California, Gary High School. Second round of the draft 6 years ago. 6'3", 205. Vince Velasquez, 23 years of age, has a birthday in the next 40 days. That's a swing and a miss.
Set the D for the Phillies behind Vince Velasquez. Low Herrera Borges the outfield. Blanco Franco left side. Hernandez Howard right side. And Cameron Rupp behind the plate. Blanco Franco left side.
Nice.
Digging it.
Yeah. And if Darren Ruff was in there, you'd have Ruff Rupp.
There you go.
So here's Anthony Rendon hitting .243. As we mentioned during that marathon crazy game on Sunday, there are some batting averages that took a beating at the end of that series. Rendon 1 for 7. Whole bunch of guys were 1 for 6, 1 for 7 in that game.
He was 1 for 1. Shut it down. Take it to the house with a tater.
Nats hitting .246, 10th in the league coming out of that game. 9th in runs, 7th in the long ball. And a 1-1 pitch. Rendon to right. That'll back up Peter Borges just a bit. 2 down. Here comes Bryce, first career pinch hit home run.
Well, I said it on Sunday, I'll say it again today. If you went to a baseball movie and the star player, the MVP, had the day off, and then he came up for a pinch hit in the bottom of the 9th down by 1 and hit a 3-2 pitch out for a homer to tie it, you'd walk out of the movie and say, this movie stinks. That never happens. Well, it happened on Sunday.
Then he got the rest of the day off after having the first part of the day off. That was awesome. Bryce, that was his 15th extra base hit. Tied with Josh Donaldson for the most in all of baseball. And he punished the Phillies, as we showed you, 7 for 11 in that series with 3 home runs at Citizens Bank Park. Velasquez, by the way, has given up 2 home runs in his first 21 innings.
Be interesting to see how the Phillies treat Bryce Harper in this series. Is Vince Velasquez young enough and hungry enough to try himself against Bryce Harper? Does he want to test himself?
Makes that ballpark up there look even smaller than it is. Pretty small to begin with. Bryce is also third in the league in runs. Most RBIs in baseball, most home runs. 2-1 pitch. Fastball away. So the young guy humping up 95-96 here early. Shift is on. And he'll take the 2-out base on balls.
Bryce going to walk 15 times in this series.
Yeah, there's some teams just through with him. Longest time of game in Nats regular season history. We make that note because of the 18-inning game against the Giants a couple of years ago. So Bryce gets his first pinch homer. Heisey his first walk-off. So a leadoff homer, a ninth-inning pinch hit homer to tie it, and an extra inning walk-off home run. Matt Dendecker was surprised when I told him today that 4 or 5 guys had done the singular bookend thing where they had a leadoff homer and then walked off. Pretty hard to do. Ryan Zimmerman gets under one. Out is Hernandez, in is Herrera. Odubel Herrera makes the call and the catch. The Nats get a 2-out walk to Harper. They've stranded a runner, and on the Blanco homer. Stick that on your window with Teddy. It's 2-0 Phils.
'16 Flex Plan's back. The choice is yours. Pick 4 games starting at just $80. Plus, we'll throw in a free Nationals grill item. Visit nationals.com/flex to buy your Flex Plan today.
Top of the second, David Lowe, Cesar Hernandez, and the pitcher Velasquez. And this is where Max starts turning his nights around. Phillies just called up David Lowe. Nats have seen him in the past with the Royals and with Baltimore. Last year he hit .201 in 84 games for the O's. They signed him as a free agent late January and called him up last week after he was 7 for 25 with a couple of RBIs at Lehigh Valley, their AAA.
I'm having a lot of 90s flashbacks tonight. I got Jim Eisenreich hitting right now for the Phillies. How about that comparison? Same stance, same kind of body type, and he could hit.
Both played in Kansas City. 1-2 pitch. Changeup, hit hard. Zimmerman, nice backhand pick. And he gets a speedy runner for the first out. Second inning. That'll bring in Cesar Hernandez. So what I mentioned a moment ago, Max, this is his turnaround time, because this year he's now given up 8 earned runs in the first inning and then only 6 in his other 21 innings combined. Hernandez 2 for 11 career against him. And batting .262. From the left side, 15 for 48. Cedric Hunter, the player the Phillies no longer have, that they did when we first saw them, and a base hit to right. That'll give Velasquez a chance, batting in the 8th spot, to sacrifice a runner. So FP, you talked to your old buddy Pete McCannon. Why is he batting Velasquez 8th?
Because he won a few games and said, I'm going to stick with it. No, Peter Borges hitting 9th is like another leadoff hitter. So when you have a fast guy hitting 8th, you really can't steal bases because the pitcher's always bunting you over. And so by batting Borges 9th and then having Odubel Herrera at the top of the order, he's got 2 speed guys back to back. So when Borges hits 9th now, if he gets on, he can steal 2nd, and it's more conducive to his game. Trying to get him going too. It's hard to get going as a hitter if you're struggling, if you're hitting in front of the pitcher.
Yeah, he's 10 for 51, batting a .196 with his new ball club. That ball's up and in, and that'll be as good as a bunt for the Phils. And now Velasquez could bunt Hernandez over to third, but that would be for the 2nd out. Not that big of a deal. Whoa. They're going to call that a pass ball on Jose Lobaton.
That's a wrong call. It's a wild pitch.
Two balls, no strikes. Velasquez as a big league hitter, 1 for 6 this year.
A lot of times, staying through and finishing pitches just means slowing down your delivery a little bit, staying over the rubber. The hitting comparison is a hitter that's jumping at the pitcher. His bat kind of trails. Get underneath the baseball. Same applies to a pitcher. You stay over that rubber just a click longer, and then you get your release point.
Two-one pitch, runner at second, 1 out. Espinosa keeping the runner Hernandez close, and that's a strike to the outside edge.
Nice slow delivery there, stayed back, finished the pitch. 93 on the black.
Perfect fastball on the Mercedes-Benz pitch track. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Mets, by the way, hosting Cincinnati tonight. They won again last night. The Mets have won 4 straight. They're 3 back of the Nats. Bartolo Colon this evening. And a 2-2 with 1 out to the pitcher. Got it. Off speed, 85, the slider. On its way outside for Max's 2nd strikeout.
The slider's been on point for Max in this game. And he'll figure out the fastball command thing, but a nice pitch right there.
Now that was a wide miss. So here's Borges, a .241 career hitter. But in 2 years in St. Louis, after hitting in the 270s for the Angels, he hit .231 and .200. Phillies signed him to a 1-year deal, and he'd be happy to be at .200 right now.
That was a nasty slider. That broke from almost the inner third to off the plate away. And you remember the 16 strikeout game against the Brewers last year. Jose Lobaton was catching him that day game in Milwaukee. And the one thing you know with Jose back there is that he's going to figure out what's working and he's going to wear it out. So if the slider's working, you can see a lot of them. The curveball's working, you're going to see a lot of them. If the changeup's on point, you're going to see a lot of them. But he's got a good feel, and he's going to put the right fingers down.
And the 0-2 pitch. Got him with a fastball. So the slide piece sets up the 96, and Borges could not pull the trigger. Max has 3 Ks. Murphy, Worth, and Espinoza coming up.
A lot of positive stuff to talk about coming out of Sunday's win. Chris Heisey's game-winning homer, Bryce Harper's pinch-hit homer. But let's not forget about Oliver Perez's bunt in the 15th inning with 2 outs to eventually tie the game. Perez told me that he used to drop down bunts with 2 outs as a surprise quite a bit back when he was a starter. Now, he hasn't gotten an at-bat in 6 years, but he said that's something he's done in the past, and he told Jose Lobaton beforehand in the on-deck circle, I'm going to drop down a bunt, then you're going to drive Espinoza in. Well, Perez ended up driving Espinoza in himself, and he told me that yesterday his 2-year-old son was watching the clip of the play over and over and over again. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah, Daddy with bat.
Dad, you're the best bunter ever.
Over 2 million vehicles sold and counting. Dan's with Coons.com. Sideline report.
That was awesome.
Daniel Murphy's had multi-hit games 5 of his last 7 times. Maybe on his way to another one. That'll short hop the wall at the 335 mark. And that will be Daniel Murphy's 6th double of the year, to go with a couple of triples and 2 home runs.
Well, you know it's coming. Daniel hits Murphy. Told him today in batting practice, I'm calling you that. He said, oh, I'm just going good right now. There's going to be ebbs and flows throughout the season. And all the time I'm thinking, baloney, you can flat out hit. So there goes the no-hitter. Daniel Murphy with another double. Daniel hits Murphy. I mean, I just love watching him play.
The Nats could have been better Sunday in situations like this. They had some runners in scoring position early in some of those innings and didn't push him over or get him home. So here's Worth, Espinoza, and Lobaton, the next 3, trying to cut this deficit in half. Jason's been driving the ball, though. 2 home runs in his last 3 games among his 5 hits. By the way, the only Nat who's ever had an at-bat against Velasquez was in the American League, and that's Stephen Drew, who's on the bench tonight, 0 for 3. Breaking ball gets away. Now that's a wild pitch. And Murphy's at third with nobody out.
And now Jason Worth's mindset changes a little bit from trying to move Daniel Murphy to third to picking him up from third base. Cameron Rupp chose to glove this baseball instead of block it. It hits some part of his body, kicks off, and Jason Worth with the help. And a chance to put your team up, or get one of those runs back, excuse me.
Worth 8 RBIs on the year.
I'm just so used to them scoring in the first inning and being ahead.
Yeah, they haven't been behind hardly at all early.
At 25 runs or so in the first inning this year. I know it's the second, but I'm shocked they didn't score in the first.
2-0. Velasquez coming into this game in 19 innings, 3 walks, 29 strikeouts, and giving up only 11 hits in that time. He has been nasty and stingy. Front door breaking ball. Angel Hernandez calls it a strike.
Yeah, if he's throwing that curveball for a strike, it's a rough go because you have to sit on 96, 97, and then he drops the 12-6 hammer. And got the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. So Nissan with our pitch track right there. 2-2. Worth blown away with 94 upstairs. 1 out. Second K for Velasquez.
Yoga in the outfield returns in 2016 following the Nationals Marlins game on Sunday, May 15th. That's a 1:35 game. It's not a stretch to say this is the biggest and best yoga in the outfield ever. To purchase your special tickets, visit nationals.com/yoga.
Danny Espinosa. Contact needed here with 1 out. How about a bunt contact for an RBI? Well done by Danny Espinosa. Sacrifice bunt on the squeeze, and the Nats have their first run. Hey, against a strikeout pitcher, why not?
That's a good idea. I don't think it was a squeeze. It was just a base hit bunt attempt by Danny Espinosa, and Daniel Murphy read that it was firm off the barrel and placed perfectly. Watch Murphy read it. Yeah, I was walk home on that one. Nicely done, Danny Espinosa, getting his ball club on the board.
Here's Jose Lobaton. 3 for 10 left-handed.
Yeah, I like the idea all the way around by Espinosa. Velasquez is a high fastball pitcher. You saw the strikeout pitch to Jason Worth. That's his bread and butter. That fastball right at the letters that looks like a beach ball coming in.
And Lobaton flying one near the left field line for David Lowe. It'll be a foul ball when he grabs it to end the inning, but a good one for the Nats. Murphy's leadoff double. They convert it into the first run of the night. Top of the third for Philadelphia. Let's have a look at our PNC sort of inside some numbers here. So the Nats against the Twins, crazy strikeout numbers. 15 by 10 at Roark on Saturday, and then a whole bunch by a host of pitchers on Sunday. And they had to go back to 1913 to find 2 games in a row where that many were struck out by a staff. And of course, the 16 innings came into play on Sunday, but there were still a whole bunch of strikeouts before that time.
That should say 2.5 game span. Or 3 game span.
And Yusmeiro Petit struck out 6 in extra innings.
Yeah, he was money. Don't sleep on Yusmeiro Petit to be in the sneaky MVP of that 16-inning game. Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple of nice outings out of the bullpen. The Joe Ross blister game and then the 16-inning game, doing exactly what they got him for.
And Dan Coco reporting to us that Sean Kelly and Blake Trinan were not available in that game, so that was pretty heady stuff. Because in terms of availability, who was Dusty going to come up with next after Perez?
I'll tell you what, Dusty Baker's my early season choice for comeback manager of the year. Let that marinate for a second, maybe.
After no job and then coming to a job?
Well, there's no category for that.
Yeah. 3-1.
I mean, only Dusty Baker can win a ball game with a relief pitcher hitting 2 outs and laying down a bunt, and somehow the guy from second scores. It's just how his life has been. He's blessed. He's charmed. And his teams always seem to find a way.
3-2 pitch to Herrera, who walked first time up.
And I was thinking about it after the game, Carp. The Ugla game, the Adam LaRoche game in Los Angeles where he came off the bench sick, or the game on Sunday as the best games we've seen as a pair together here in the booth.
Yeah, 16-inning game in Milwaukee a couple of years ago, but that did not have the roller coaster ride that we had here 2 days ago.
I mean, you remember it was getaway day in Los Angeles. Adam LaRoche was sick. He came off the bench and had like 5 RBIs, and from the 9th inning on, it was a seesaw affair. The Ugla game, it was 9-1 last year in Atlanta, and Dan Ugla hit the game-winning home run. You know, postseason Jason Worth Game 4 aside, I think those are the 3 games that stand out to me since I've been here.
Oliver Perez demonstrating a new way to demolish a paper cup, 1 strip at a time. And I know Odubel Herrera has had great discipline this year. He's now walked 19 times, and that cup is gradually working its way to the bottom. I've never seen one. This is like a slow motion can opener we're seeing. But I'm wondering why pitchers aren't throwing more strikes to Odubel Herrera, who has 10 career home runs and is a 280-some hitter. They just keep on walking him. Boy, he had a great jump, I thought, and then he stopped. Foul ball anyway.
You'd be confused about that. I'm confused about the styrofoam cup in the bullpen.
He's getting to the bottom.
He knows a little something about styrofoam cuts. Has earphones. He's almost done.
This is taking boredom in the bullpen to a whole new level.
Get him another one.
Dan Farova, the Nats bullpen coach, right next to him, totally disinterested.
It's better than chewing tobacco.
That's true. Down to the very end. I mean, it's too irresistible, folks. We got to see how this turns out.
Yeah. I quit dipping last week, and this is what I'm doing now.
Wait till his 2-year-old sees this.
Yeah, you think that bunt was good? That's pretty impressive.
He might have learned that from his son. No balls and 1 strike as Scherzer checks Herrera.
It's going to get hard now. It's down to the bottom of the cup.
I think that's it.
What's he doing?
He's made string out of a cup.
That's fantastic. Now what?
Well done, Oliver. Are you going to drop it? That's why we got him on this one, too?
Yeah, that's why we got him.
0-1 pitch, time given, and Max Scherzer almost stumbled and fell straight forward.
Well, an umpire doesn't have to give a hitter a timeout. So when it's late like that, sometimes it's on the umpire. Angel does not have to step out of there. He can stay in there and say the pitch is come and hang with him.
Tell you, Andres Blanco's last 2 at-bats against the Nats have been very damaging. The game-tying single in Philadelphia, and then the Galvis double after that to win that game in extra innings. And now tonight he has homered for the first time this year. So the contact guys getting it done for the Phils. They're kind of like the old fighting Phils here. They don't have a whole lot of power other than Ryan Howard. Franco's hit 5. But these guys will make contact and scrap at you for 9 innings. I talked to their new team president, Andy McPhail, before the game, and he likes the passion with which they're playing right now. Off speed. Strike 2.
A changeup from Max here, 86. The off speed hasn't been a problem. He's figured out the fastball too. But the changeup and slider as the secondary pitches have been great so far for Max Scherzer.
Nats looking for a ground ball. 1-2 pitch. Herrera. Pretty good lead at first. Max goes with this A move. Will Little says safe. Max Scherzer first inning 18 pitches and then 14, and he's at 43 pitches with nobody out in the 3rd inning. Then a 1-2 with nobody out. Another time.
Well, Max 4-0 with a 1.46 and 5 starts against the Phillies as a National, and obviously in the scouting report in the pre-series meeting they talked about, hey, if he's going to hold it on you, we're stepping out. It's obvious that that's part of the game plan tonight by the Phillies. They haven't had much success against Max, so they're trying something new.
Phils are 9-10 on the road. They're 4-5. Same record in the division. And a foul tip keeps Blanco alive. National League East. As I said, Mets have won 4 in a row. They won last night. The Nats have won 3 straight. Unbeatable at home. Phillies hanging in there. Not much going right for the Braves, who are already behind tonight at home 4-1 to the Red Sox. Marlins at Dodger Stadium tonight. 2-2 pitch. Out of play.
And Max uses that hold to disrupt the runner's timing, and he has classifications for runners. He's got burner, or you're fast, or you're stealth, or you're not at all. So there's 4 classifications for him as a runner. And I think you could say Odubel Herrera is fast, maybe not a burner. Burner, the upper echelon guys like D. Gordon. Stealther guys you just have to throw over once, because if you don't pay attention, they'll steal on you. and then not at all. You just, the slower guys you don't pay attention to.
Lobaton moving in for the target, and Blanco hitting it at almost a 45-degree to actually almost a 90-degree foul ball to the right. So having to use a lot of bullets here. Mercedes-Benz has the AB.
Get your protractor out, Bob.
I don't have one of those.
Get your degrees right.
I didn't know.
There's geometry students out there listening to
I
you.
didn't know what those did when I was supposed to know. Hard hit. Murphy. Espinosa. He always has the arm to make up a little bit of time on a 4-6-3 double play ball that was hit really hard.
Well, the speed of this baseball allows Daniel Murphy to knock it down, stay with it with the bare hand, a nice backhand flip to Espinosa. And this ball was hit hard, so Murphy has time, but he got rid of it quick. Danny Espinosa does a nice job of coming across that bag and using that big arm of his. Max Scherzer fired up with the fist. Nicely done.
Maikel Franco with 2 outs. And he didn't get a first pitch fastball that time either. Same pitch, same swing, same miss as in the first inning right after the Blanco home run. Franco 1 for 10 career against Max Scherzer. Infield to pull. They're not having a very good time with that Scherzer slide piece. Game number 19 for the Nats. Number 20 for the Phils. Right back into divisional play where Washington is 11-4. Front door breaking ball that time, fouled. Scherzer, Gio, and Tanner Roark for the 3 games of this Phillies series. Nats will see Jeremy Hellickson tomorrow night. 2-2 pitch. Fastball inside. And Aaron Nola. Well, if you got time Thursday afternoon, sneak out early, 4:05 first pitch, because the guys will be gone for a week and a half after that. 3-2, 1 hopper, Anthony Rendon. Couple of crow hops, and that's it for the Phils. After the leadoff walk in the top of the 3rd, Scherzer will hit. It's a 1-run game. We're going bottom of the 3rd, and when the Nationals win and win big, everyone does all season long,
When the Nats win and score at least 7 or more, you get 50% off. Regular menu price online orders at papajohns.com. Enter promo code NATS50. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's, official pizza of your Washington Nationals. This is valid at participating D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Papa John's. Max Scherzer, 1 for 9, couple of RBIs this year.
You know why you don't worry about Max Scherzer? If you go back to last year, he had a couple of rough starts in a row against Toronto and the Yankees where he gave up 4 runs in both. Kind of doing the same thing he's been doing the last 2 starts.
Sharply hit ball to Cesar Hernandez.
Where he's kind of pulling that fastball across, flying open. And the reason you don't worry is because the start after the Yankee start was that start in Milwaukee where he struck out 16. The next start was the near perfect game / no-hitter against the Pirates. And the start after that was against the Phillies where he was perfect through 5 again. So, and you can kind of see him figuring it out in the course of this game here tonight. After the first inning, he's been locked in.
Nothing wrong with giving up too early and then shutting them down the way this ball club has been winning close games. Taylor, great swing, right field. And about 3 more of those will be a big time slump busting situation for the Nats center fielder. He's had 2 of those now in the last week where he just takes it the other way.
Yeah, good swing by Michael Taylor. Had a couple of hits the other day in a 2 for 3 in the 16-inning game before Bryce Harper pinch hit for him in the 9th. So 2 for 3 the other day, a base hit to right here.
All right. Anthony Rendon went to right first time. Hit the ball pretty solidly in the air. Caught by Peter Borges. A lot of room right side for a ground ball. Phillies looking for a double play because they don't want to face who's on deck.
Look at Angel Hernandez on top of it right now. The pickoff throw went in the dirt. A lot of times you don't see the ball changed on a pickoff throw in the dirt. But that can have a scuff on it too, so they threw it out. New baseball.
Ball gets away. Taylor to second. Phillies make their 12th error of the year, and they've had a couple of miscues that have cost them a run already.
Good trip by Cameron Rupp right here to calm down Vince Velasquez. You know, you're seeing some young mistakes. You know, he's very aware of Michael Taylor. A little quick with the pickoff throw, and Ryan Howard couldn't hang on. Good heads up by Michael Taylor. That ball didn't bounce far away from Howard to get to second.
One out, runner in scoring position. The tying run. Rendon, 1 batted in so far. And that front door breaking ball, the curve stayed inside that time. Angel Hernandez took a long look at it. Ball 1.
He saw Vince Velasquez. He said strike. He thought that was a strike. Same pitch he got called in his favor against Jason Worth.
Up and away, ball 2. Velasquez given the error on that play. (2-0) to Rendon. Good 2-0 rip. (23-year-old) Vince Velasquez, career record 3-2 with a 3.48 ERA. This is his 11th career start. 4th for the Phillies. Rendon pulls it. That's fair. Great play at third by Franco. And Howard stays on the bag. Maikel Franco costing the Nats a run. 2 down.
Oh, great play by Franco right here, and see if he's okay. He's kind of getting up slow. Anthony Rendon hit that right on the nose. Franco with a step and a dive gets up quickly to get Anthony Rendon. Kind of an in-between hop right there. Great play. That ball was hit hard. See Anthony Rendon not getting his steps right at the end. And now Bryce Harper's got to walk, right? Here's walk number 2. I said 15 in the series. We're on our way.
Yeah, they pitched to him here. You wouldn't believe it. So it'll be 2 on 2 out for Ryan Zimmerman. Here come the boos.
Maybe because he's hitting .474 with men on base this year with 4 homers, 5 doubles, and 6 intentional walks. Make it 7 now.
Come on, Washington, boo like they do in Philly. Well, big spot for Ryan Zimmerman, who went swinging at first pitch in the first inning and hit a fly ball to center.
Just don't throw your sweatbands on the ice.
Oh, yeah, the giveaway that night at the hockey game. So Bryce now, 9 strikeouts, 12 walks. And just to keep track, that's the 3rd time this year Bryce Harper has been walked intentionally. Just 3. Ryan Zimmerman, a homer, 6 RBIs. That's 95 to the outer half. Bryce, a huge lead at first as the trail runner because they're pinching Zimmerman a bit on the right side of the infield. And that is a strike call that Ryan did not like.
Thought it was in. He said that's in. Let's see what Pitch Track thinks. I mean, Rupp's setting it off the plate, right?
Yeah, not even very close. A lot of things a pitcher can do in this situation without a runner at third. He wants to bury a breaking ball, which he does, and it's blocked by Cameron Rupp. Ball 1.
I'll tell you what, if I throw 95 to 97 and you're giving me 2-3 inches off the plate in, I'm going to wear that out all night to right-handers until you show me as an umpire you're not going to call it. It's a hard pitch to get to for anybody. I don't care how quick your bat is.
Zimmerman pops it up right side. Looking up into the twilight and barely held on by Cameron Rupp. Ball kind of disappeared on him for a second. And the Nats will strand their 2nd and 3rd runners in a 2-1 game. The fourth inning of Nationals baseball brought to you by the RAV4 Hybrid. All-wheel drive and unexpected performance. Visit buyatoyota.com tonight. He's that big I'd walk him too. So the Phillies give Bryce a free pass. They pop up Zimmerman. To the middle innings we go. Howard, Rupp, and Lowe for Philadelphia. Phil's leading 2-1. Ryan Howard, fly ball to center first time. Light's really starting to take effect now. It's a curveball that ends up way inside on the big left-handed batter, who in his career against Nats pitching has hit 42 home runs, walked 78 times, and driven in 128. Counts even 1-1. Shift on. Murphy well out into right field. Reds have a run at New York to lead Bartolo Colon and the Mets. Third inning, 1-0.
I think tonight's big because 14-4 record matches the best start in franchise history through 18 games. Remember the 2012 ball club was 14-4, so you get to that 15-4 mark and make a little history, right?
Yeah, that ball club went on to lose its next 5 games after going 14-4, and then righted the ship and kept it sailing throughout the season. That's way outside. Max Scherzer, third walk, 2 to Herrera, 1 to Howard.
It's time for Masson's Trivia Scramble. Which Nats pitcher won a Silver Slugger Award in 2012? Text the answer to 29292 for your chance to win a Nats prize pack from Masson. That's brought to you by PNC Bank for the Achiever in You. Rhymes with Mossberg. Rhymes with Flossberg.
And if somebody gets that wrong, I have no idea what to say to him. Here's Cameron Rupp, the catcher.
It's a pretty good clue, though, right?
Well, I'd say you pretty much gave it away. I don't remember anybody named Schlossberg on that stuff.
Is it one of those guys? Okay.
And that ball hammered by Cameron Rupp out to left center. Ryan Howard, who doesn't run fast anymore, over to third base easily. And Rupp, a dive into second. So 2 runners in scoring position with nobody out.
Yeah, Ryan Howard. All he's got right there, first and third. Good swing by Cameron Rupp. Short, compact. Bullet to left center. Michael Taylor did a nice job just to keep it second and third.
Here's David Lowe. He's a guy who can move the ball around, and he can run very quick. The last time the Nats went to Kansas City was 3 years ago. They're heading there next week. David Lowe was a Royal, hitting .286 that year in 13. A 1 pitch, swing and a miss. Mid-90s by Max, who needs to reach back and find some of that swing and miss stuff here in the 4th inning.
Jose Lobaton wanted that fastball up, trying to climb the ladder here against Lowe. See, these are the pitches, Cart. We talked about Tanner Roark and his pitch count the other day. These are the pitches you circle if you're charting right now. These are red line pitches trying to get out of a jam. So when you talk about just a number, you know, right now, if you're Gio Gonzalez, you're circling pitches number 65, 66, 67. As, you know, Max Scherzer putting the pedal to the metal right here, trying to get out of this jam. High stress.
Slow runner at third. Not a guaranteed RBI on a ground ball. And that ball swinging a foul tip upstairs. The Nats are playing back with the middle infielders. And if he hits a one hopper to short, Danny Espinosa might have a decision to make. Best arm on the infield. 0-2. Max looking for the K. Changeup. Right side. Zimmerman coming home. And looks like they got Ryan Howard. Great reach by Lobaton. Howard tried to get around him. And it's a 3-2 for the first out.
Hey, Pete McCannon wants to look at it, at least talk to the clubhouse and see what they see. I like the aggressive play by Ryan Zimmerman. He knew he was on third base. He knew that he's going to have time. Even though this ball wasn't hit hard, he came very aggressively, and he likes to throw on the run. We saw that at third. Does he get Ryan Howard? I think he did. Ryan Howard pointing immediately to the dugout. What do you got?
I'll tell you, Lobaton reaching a long way.
Did you see Max Scherzer hit the dirt? So the throw wouldn't hit him? Tough to tell on that angle. Look at Max Scherzer getting down. I don't know if there's anything definitive enough. They're not even going to look at it to overturn it. That's it.
Hard
Nice
to tell.
play.
Dirt flying, bodies colliding.
Heads up play by Ryan Zimmerman.
So it stays 2-1. Now it's first and third. Now Cesar Hernandez can move it, but the double play's in order now. Rendon even with a bag at third, and Scherzer drops a curveball in there. Yeah, that's always been Ryan Zimmerman's favorite throw, as you noted, on the run. That sidearm whip, nobody does it better.
Pete McCannon squeezed about 5 or 6 times in spring training. He likes to play. I don't know if this is the situation, but he's not afraid to do it.
Yeah, he's got a. First he had his first baseman at third. Now he's got his catcher.
Change up. Beauty. As they say in Canada. It's beauty, eh?
0-2 with 1 out. First base Low, third base Rupp. And a solid single to left will put the Phillies on top 3-1. Cesar Hernandez 2 for 2. And the Phillies back up by 2.
A nice piece of hitting by Cesar Hernandez. 2-strike mode. Gets a fastball from Max Scherzer. Stays on it. And puts his team up by a couple of runs. It's a good at bat.
lot of possibilities here. Velasquez maybe trying to bunt a couple of runners over. He takes a fastball for a strike up in the zone. Now the Phillies have good speed at both bases. This is Max's second longest inning. 23 pitches in the third, now 20 more right here. He's at 75 with one out, top of the fourth.
A lot of times you see fastballs up right here for strike three. See if the pitcher offers it something above the letters, pops it up foul.
Two with one out. Foul tip. Velasquez stays alive. Finally, the second out on Max Scherzer's fourth K of the night. He'll face Peter Borges.
Time for our Toyota Case for Kids. Washington area Toyota dealers want to help children and their families by making a donation of $37 to the Children's Inn at NIH for every strikeout by a Nats pitcher this season.
Borges struck out looking first time. Max got ahead of him with some really good sliders and then buzzed him with a heater, and Borges could not react. Well jammed with a fastball, 1-1. Now the Reds have 3 runs at New York, 3-0 Cincinnati, fourth inning. Nats down 3-1 here. Saw Daniel Murphy tap his glove a couple of times to keep the runner close. Taylor to the scoreboard, waiting for it, and grabs an extra base hit bid by Peter Borges. Long inning for Max Scherzer, but he only gave up 1 run. Well, the guys you saw teaming up for some offense there. Murphy and Espinosa will bat. Bottom of the 4th inning. Daniel Murphy, clean double, right field corner, first time up. So he goes left field corner this time, but it's foul. Murphy is tied with Gene Segura of Arizona with 10 multi-hit games on the year. 5 of his last 7 he's done that. Counts even 1-1. First 3 innings for Vince Velasquez. 41 pitches, 24 strikes.
Got on top of a high fastball his first time up for a double.
And you've talked about what a good high ball hitter he is from that side of the plate. Not a lot of guys do that. Just foul beyond the bag.
Look at him. He's making adjustments between pitches. Likes the white uni. 500 average here at Nats Park.
That's something. Highest home average by any hitter in baseball.
Well, he liked it as a Met. Seemed like he always had to in this ballpark.
And Murphy, top spin grounder. Cesar Hernandez throws him out.
DC Lexus dealers, they're donating $250 to the Children's National Health System for every home run a Nats player hits this season. So keep them coming. It's for a wonderful cause. Lexus, the pursuit of perfection. It's a homer club from Sunday.
That was fun. Heisey Harper, Dendecker in there somewhere. I think one of the former Nats, one of the guys who did that bookend home run thing was Reed Johnson, former National, a leadoff homer and a walk-off homer in the same game. It's about the only thing we didn't see Sunday afternoon into the evening. Jason Worth struck out swinging first time. Velasquez got a front door fastball call. It looked like it was up and in, and that really kind of changed that at bat. Now Jason takes that one right in there. 0-2. Yeah, they wanted the fastball up. In the air, right side. Near the bag, Ryan Howard. 2 outs. Danny Espinosa next. He has the night's only RBI, his 6th of the year. Nice crowd. Tuesday night after a day off. Another night game tomorrow with Gio, and then 4 o'clock matinee with Tanner Roark on Thursday afternoon. Then it's on to St. Louis, Kansas City, and Chicago.
I wonder how many people on Sunday said, I wish we would have stayed.
Several thousand.
Missed a great one, I'll tell you that.
One hopper. Velasquez takes care of Murphy, Worth, and Espinosa. This ball game to the top of the 5th. The Phillies on top 3-1.
his new contour. Get right to the good stuff as we head to the top of the 5th inning. 3-1 Phillies. And you see some location mistakes for Max Scherzer. Just supposed to be a sinker away, just kind of pulls it across the plate. It shows you how perfect you have to be at the highest level. And usually when you throw mid to upper 90s, you can get away with a few of them, but the Phillies haven't let Max. The slider changeup curve has been great, but the fastball command at times has cost Max.
Top of the 5th inning, Odubel Herrera. 2 walks, scoring a run in the first ahead of the Blanco home run. So this Phillies leadoff guy continues to be one of the most walked batters in baseball with 19 already. Second only to Paul Goldschmidt, the power source for the Diamondbacks. Max got in his kitchen pretty well right there. Scherzer 83 pitches, 55 strikes, first 4 innings. Change up, base hit. This guy is on base all the time. Herrera came in with a .432 on base percentage, 5th highest in the National League. All right, I may need a little help from this one, guys. It looks like a giant Jiffy Pop popcorn race to me.
It's Orville Redenbacher day.
And they backed in. I need a little help. You know, we did have one of our NASA astronauts, Mr. Lindgren, throw out the first pitch tonight. So maybe they want to be on the International Space Station. I talked to Major Lindgren before the game, and he was up in the International Space Station for 5 months.
Did he tell you about that one time he wore tinfoil on his head for a helmet?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the heads look like lunar modules there, but space station is nowhere near the moon right now. So here's Blanco.
Do not try that at home, kids. That is not safe.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you're an astronaut. Then try it.
But it was taking me back to the days of Jiffy Pop popcorn.
Yeah, me too.
Which, if you left it on the stove for more than 10 seconds, burn city.
Yeah, explain to your kids, parents, what that was.
Hit and run, maybe. Or run and hit, and either way, executed perfectly. Blanco stinging the ball for the 2nd time. And the contact hitters in the Phillies lineup are giving Max Scherzer fits tonight.
Boy, he's hit the ball on the nose all night long. Home run his first time up. Hit that hard 4-6-3 double play to Daniel Murphy 2nd time up, and now a base hit 3rd time up. So Blanco having a big night.
6 Philadelphia hits to go with 3 walks. And here's Maikel Franco, who has bounced out twice. Max has had him rolling over the ball to Anthony Rendon. So it looks like the Nats, if they get another one of those, they'll go for the double play as Rendon backs up. Max ahead. That will hook out of play. And the count is 0-2 here in the 5th inning.
Ball gets away, and that gets their trail runner down to second base. So a slider. Jose Lobaton unable to handle it cleanly. He's upset with himself. Yeah, right in the glove.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was thinking that was going to be in the dirt, and he was prepared to block it. Hit him in the glove, and heads up by Andres Blanco to advance to second.
Yeah. We were skeptical of the first pass ball call in the second, but that had to be called that way. Now the infield's in with a 1-2 count and nobody out. To Rendon, a tag. Yes, a throw. Yes. 5-3 double play.
Boy, how many double plays do you see like that? And Odubel Herrera kind of got caught in no man's land. Didn't go home, didn't really go back hard to third base. The ball takes Anthony Rendon right into the base runner, so he tags him. On the shoulder, spin move, sidearm, strong throw, by the way, with no momentum to Ryan Zimmerman. And maybe that turns the momentum of this ball game around. We'll see.
Very rare indeed. Here's Ryan Howard with 2 outs. Runner at second base. It's outside. Second double play by the Nats tonight.
I think that's a young mistake by Herrera. Just run home. And if Rendon throws you out, you'll probably have second and third after the rundown with 1 out. Or at least first and third with 1 out. And if Rendon tries to turn the double play on that, it's runner on third, 2 outs. But I think as a runner right there, you have to just run home.
Yeah, good call. Almost anything other than what he did from the Phillies standpoint.
Maybe he just got all locked up because the ball was hit right at him and he froze.
Ironically, he's a third baseman. 1 ball, 1 strike with 2 outs. Howard fouls it. (1,144 RBIs), and the Nats contributed 128 of those, so more than 10%. So Blanco, second base, 2 outs now. After the Phillies had a chance for a huge inning. 1-2. Lobaton wants it up. In on Ryan Howard's hands, and it's out of play.
.95 pitches for Max.
Runner going. And the Nats are just letting Blanco take third base if he wants. Anthony Rendon's the only man on the left side of the infield, and he's not going to give any ground to move around for a runner with 2 outs.
2 strikes, 2 outs. Concentrate on the hitter. If he wants to run behind you, let him go. Probably going to take off again right here.
Off speed, strikes out Ryan Howard. Well, it may take a while to find out how big that was, but the Phillies with a base running mistake. The Nats turn it into a double play, and this strikeout keeping it 3-1.
Of the 5th inning. Did you see last night that Jordan Zimmerman gave up his first run of the season? He had the scoreless inning streaks. The center fielder lost the ball in the twilight, got booed by Tigers fans, and then he did something he will regret the rest of his career after that. Don't miss this exciting series. Visit Nationals.com for tickets. Tigers coming to town, folks.
Yeah, right after the Nats get back from Wrigley Field. And there's talk that one of those games could match up Max Scherzer and Jordan Zimmerman.
He gave the Tigers fans a salute that you don't want to do as a player ever. I don't know that I've ever seen that in the middle of a game from a player on the field.
Yeah.
A position player.
And they didn't lose that in the twilight, did they?
No, they didn't. There's these things called cameras now that televise every game, and there's lots of them.
Jose Lobaton fouled out to the left fielder. David Lowe first time. And now the Nats fans are booing somebody who muffed a foul ball. Hot shot, one hop. Ryan Howard, bottom of the 5th underway, 1 out. PNC Bank, when you have insight, you know how to handle your finances with confidence. Brought to you by PNC. For the achiever in you, Trey Turner, 25 hits, first in the International League, batting .357. On base percentage, fantastic. On base percentage plus slugging, .959. And Turner the Burner has 6 stolen bases already. It's all brought to you by PNC.
Was told he had an opposite field home run the other night.
Well, there comes a time when every ball club has to make a decision about a guy when he's too good for the league he's playing in. Scherzer gashes one. Hernandez missed it. It almost got Ted Barrett. And Max Scherzer has his 2nd hit of the year. Could the double play, the strikeout, and something like that turn around some momentum for a ball game?
Well, you're thinking the double play, Mike. Max Scherzer gets a fastball right down the middle, always competing, whether he's on the mound, at the plate, on the bases. Beautiful swing. Just misses Ted Barrett.
Ball was hammered.
Bob Davison would not have got out of the way of that.
Here's Michael A. Taylor. Great swing last time as he leveled off and took a base hit to the right field side. Not a 12 hopper, a hit with authority line drive. They're going to keep pitching Michael out there until he starts doing that kind of damage. 13 hits on the year. Couple of home runs, 3 RBIs. 2-0. Nats trying to put hits together in the same inning for the first time. And Taylor not trying to pull everything tonight, looking good in there. And the count's back even 2-2. Michael's strong enough. He can do damage in any part of this park. Outfield around to the right. Up and in. Counts full with 1 out.
If you're wondering, Max Scherzer, no career steals.
No, you don't start him here. Right? You got a strikeout guy at the plate. He's trying to put it in play. Down by 2 runs.
Well, I was referencing the throw over. That is ball 4. So the pitcher gets a hit with 1 out. Taylor walks, and Anthony Rendon in a big spot now.
Well, that's a good take by Michael Taylor. Pretty close on the 3-2 pitch. Spit on it. He's on base for the 2nd time tonight. Was on base 3 times yesterday and doing a nice job leading off here.
Now this could change in a hurry, huh? Anthony Rendon thrown out on that fantastic backhand play by Franco last time. Fly ball to right his first time up. Harper on deck, 1 out here, bottom of the 5th. Starting to look like a stretching class out in the Phillies bullpen. Left field. Rendon pulls it right to the 3rd baseman. Franco will go to the bag, and maybe by doing that he lost the double play.
That's a bad decision by Maikel Franco. He had the 5-4-3 double play if he wants it. He took too many steps to the bag. And now it allows Bryce Harper to be walked and Ryan Zimmerman to hit. Watch this. Right at you, you go 5-4-3 right there, but you see him take all those steps and all that time, and Anthony Rendon hustling all the way beats it easily. But now with Rendon on first, let's see if they have to pitch to Bryce, right?
Yeah, 1st and 2nd, 2 outs.
I mean, that's could be costly. We'll see.
They walked Bryce intentionally last time. Walked him in the 1st. And Harper represents the lead run here in the bottom of the 5th inning. So a couple of plays by Maikel Franco, one running at 3rd, one playing 3rd, giving Harper and the Nats a chance to change this whole evening around.
And Bryce has the whole left side, and we've seen him at times make the adjustment and just hit a ground ball to short. If he does, it's a 3-2 game. He might be thinking bigger things, though. We'll see.
Yeah, Phillies have the shift on. Franco alone, 3rd base side. Harper, big swing. Just a bit off to the left was the foul ball, and it's 0-2. Off speed, blocked by Cameron Rupp. Rice, by the way, this year, 1st in the league, batting .600 with runners in scoring position. 23 RBIs, leads all of baseball. Another off speed, good take. It's 2-2.
I'll tell you what, if you're Vince Velasquez right now, he threw a good curveball and a good changeup that Bryce just spit on, and as a young pitcher, that could rattle you just a little bit.
And the bottom line is the hitter's on deck that he's retired twice. So he may bait Bryce a couple more here. Rupp wants it down. There's a changeup, ball 3.
0-2 to 3-2. How many times have we seen that with Bryce Harper?
And now Taylor and Rendon will get a head start. It is so interesting to watch how Bryce Harper affects the opposing pitching staffs and their entire ball club. Full counts this year, look out if you throw him a strike. There's a base hit to left center. Taylor scores. Rendon to third. Bryce Harper guides one through the infield. 24th RBI, and it's a one-run game again. Taking what the ball game gives you.
He's just such a good hitter, and we've seen him do this before. You give him the whole left side, he's going to take the whole left side. He saw that hole that we're looking at from up here, the whole at bat. He finally got a pitch to hit it to shortstop, and he did. Game moving very slow for Bryce Harper, and I guarantee you, if you run down there and ask him, he meant to do that.
Giving it back to his teammates there, and now Ryan Zimmerman bats with the tying run at third. So you can look at this fifth inning right now and look at a run, maybe two, the Phillies did not score, and a run, maybe two or more, that the Nats have scored. Outside. Zimmerman fly ball to center, and a pop up to the catcher on which Cameron Rupp made a great play over by the Nats on deck circle. Harper started then stopped at first, and it's a called strike to Ryan Zimmerman. Harper RBI number 24. Times that by 6 months of the season.
I mean,
and it's only the 26th.
He doesn't get a chance to hit if Franco goes 5-4-3 on the double play.
Yeah.
And I watched this interesting breakdown on MLB Network by Billy Ripken on Bryce Harper and the evolution of Bryce as a hitter with the strike zone. And you remember in 12 and 13 when umpires were kind of sticking it to Bryce because he was showing a lot of body language and borderline calls were always going against him. He was getting thrown out of games, and how he matured as a hitter, shown the league that he knows the strike zone now and not overreacted to pitches that he doesn't like, and how he's getting all the borderline calls. Remember the other day in his pinch hit home run, there was a call that could have went either way. He was still in the box. He went deep. Same thing when he faced Jemar Gomez in Philadelphia the other day. There was a borderline call that went his way. So calls that used to go against Bryce are going for Bryce. It's able him to do some damage.
Zimmerman ties the game. Bryce Harper heading for third. Zimmerman stays home at first, and the Nats have made it hurt to the Phillies twice in this fifth inning. Ryan Zimmerman, 7th RBI.
Yeah, Maikel Franco knows he made a mistake, and when you're playing a team that's 14-4, if you give them some extra chances, especially when you're facing guys like Bryce Harper and Ryan Zimmerman, good teams will make you pay for that extra out. Bryce Harper going first to third easily, and Ryan Zimmerman coming up big with another base hit, another RBI, and the line is moving here in the fifth inning.
Daniel Murphy is next. So counting the top of the inning and now the bottom, we've seen a 3 to 4 run swing in this ballgame. So the Nats back even. Ryan Zimmerman's 15th hit of the year. Murphy 1 for 2 with a double. And after a visit from Bob McClure, the pitching coach, here we go with Murphy and Velasquez. Stanza 3 of the night.
I'm telling you, and Bryce spitting on those off-speed pitches too. When you're Vince Velasquez and you're used to in the minor leagues guys swinging right through those, and you get to this level and all of a sudden you make pitches that look like strikes, break out of the zone late, and big league hitters aren't swinging, that'll rattle you.
Ball 1 to Murphy, and Velasquez has fallen behind almost every hitter in this inning. Remember, this all started with a 1-out hit by Max Scherzer. And then the Taylor walk.
It all started with the double play last inning, maybe, huh?
Well, that was a big momentum swing, and the Nats have taken advantage. Ball 2 to Murphy.
Still shaking his head. He knows. He knew as soon as he did it.
Ball 3 to the Nats second baseman. Jason Worth waiting. And maybe the young 23-year-old pitcher doesn't want to have a whole lot to do with Daniel Murphy here.
You know, in Franco's defense, sometimes you get a ball at third base and you don't realize how far away you are from the base when you catch it, and you take those 2 steps and you're done at that point. Once you take 1 step toward third, you're like, uh-oh, I thought I was closer. I'm in trouble now. Been there, done that.
Murphy, right field, but it's going to hang up for Peter Borges. So Murphy hacking on a 3-0 pitch. The big hit of the inning. Bryce Harper tying the game. Yeah, this team's driving, man. And then Ryan Zimmerman ties it up for the Nats.
This one all over again. Score tied at 3. May 28th, celebrate DC's international community with Taste of the World with a special ticket. Enjoy a pregame culinary experience and take home a set of Nationals salt and pepper shakers. Visit nationals.com/special ticket events to buy today.
Enjoying a treat on Tuesday, April 26th. And I would like to wish my best buddy, Katie Carpenter, happy 29th birthday tonight. At home watching with Mom.
You know you're going to have to say that again next year.
Probably.
Happy 29th birthday to her.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Phillies box score. Herrera, the big pain for the Nats, on base 3 times. The Blanco 2-run homer first inning. Cesar Hernandez, the RBI single in the 4th. Here's something for you from our brilliant stats guy, Carter Myers. Since Cameron Rupp's double in the 4th inning, 28 of 34 pitches from Max Scherzer coming into this inning were strikes. And that's a brilliant slider.
My favorite part about Max Scherzer isn't his fastball, slider, change, curveball. It's the fact that he can throw a no-hitter anytime out. It's just the way he competes every 5th day.
A lot of adversity tonight. Here he is throwing pitch 100 in the 6th inning. And his manager thinks so much of him that after a very rough 5 innings, he stays in, bats, gets a hit, and gets a 2-run rally started that tied the game. That's Max. And he is just kind of getting warmed up, it seems. Strikeout number 6.
He's starting to stalk. Look at him.
Nissan will track it.
I'm telling you, I circled that 5-3 double play, changing the whole vibe of this ball game. It changed the way his presence is on the mound. We showed you the fist pump after the double play, kind of lit everybody up in the ballpark. The fans all of a sudden real loud, then he goes up and gets a base hit. Circle that play as a game changer if the Nats figure out a way to win this one. And you just feel like they're gonna. It's the way things are going right now.
Yeah, pressure on the Phils right now. Playing a team that's won 8 straight at home. David Lowe, hot shot to Zimmerman. In fact, 2 ground balls to Zimmerman. The second one was when Ryan threw that runner out at the plate for the first out in the 4th inning.
Crickets.
I got a great caption for that shot.
Is it better than crickets? Something to do with tinfoil and presidents?
Nope. That should say Max is pitching tonight.
It's good. It's not great. Pretty good. A minus.
It was a sentence.
B plus.
As opposed to yours. 3-1. Yeah, the Nats just have that feeling about winning every game, especially at home. Fastball up, and then Max walks David Lowe with 1 out, 6th inning. Next 5 ball games. 2 here, then 3 in St. Louis, so a day game on Thursday. Gio and Roark the next couple of days. So the St. Louis series should line up as Strasburg, Ross, and Scherzer, right? That would be something at Busch Stadium. Couple of day games Saturday and Sunday. Then it's off to Kansas City and Wrigley Field. Boy, Gio going tomorrow night. 20 strikeouts, 4 walks this year in 19 innings. Cesar Hernandez. 1 on 1 out, 6th inning. Velasquez out on deck. That was a 26 pitch 5th inning for him. And now Mr. Bunter himself, Oliver Perez, is up.
That should just go down in Nationals history as the bunt. You know, have the catch, the play, the bunt.
One ball and 2 strikes now into the 9 o'clock hour here at Nationals Park, where they are 8-1 this year. Lost the opener to Miami, perfect since. And overall, they've won 3 in a row after sweeping Minnesota. They're home playing Cleveland now. That's a base hit. Hernandez 3 for 3. So Herrera, Blanco, and Hernandez have been all over Max Scherzer tonight. Another look at the bunt.
Here it comes, the bunt. Sunday, game's about 5.5 hours old. Down to the last out. Oliver Perez lays down an awesome bunt. And John Ryan Murphy, the best part was on the Exmo, and we showed him he picked up half of the baseball. He tried to re-grip it when he put it into his glove, but never got the grip on it. Launched it down the right field line. Chris Heisey with the walk-off tater. Bucket of filth. The rest is history.
So that series featured Jose Lobaton going to 3rd on a batted ball.
Right.
And Oliver Perez to 2nd on a sort of batted ball.
Jose Lobaton triple.
I mean, when that happens, you win the series, right?
Yep.
That ball's going to go foul. Pretty well placed by Velasquez. But it had spin on it, and a good decision by Lobaton to let it go.
I'll tell you what, to take that even further from a player standpoint, when weird stuff starts to happen like that, you start to think, even though it's April, it's your year. And it's never too early to think that as a ball club, and a lot of people making light of the Nats schedule, but when you play as well as they've played, it's not like they're just out talenting people like they have in the past. They're playing the game the right way. They're doing all the little things right. And that, more than the record, is what's appealing to me at this point in the season. the brand of baseball they're playing on a nightly basis.
Wheel play on as Espinosa was headed to third. Now the throw's going to be to first. Pretty good bunt by Velasquez. His first major league sacrifice. Runners to second and third, 2 outs for Herrera, who's been a real pain in the side for the Nats. Pardon me, it's Borges before Herrera. Easy to forget the pitcher's batting 8th, not 9th. So it's Peter Borges who's 0 for 2 with the opportunity here.
Pretty good bunter, good speed. I don't know if 2 RBIs potentially out there if he'll lay down a base hit bunt. But in a 3-3 game, you never know.
He struck out looking and hit a pretty deep fly ball that pinned Michael A. Taylor up against the scoreboard last time up, and that fastball just flies up and in above his bat. Borges put on waivers by St. Louis early February, right before spring training, and the Phillies picked him up on a 1-year free agent deal. That's a swing. On the off speed, it's 0-2. Max has a pretty big bag of tricks for a count like this. .3-3 ball game, top of the 6th.
Look at that face. Game face, folks.
And if the Nats can keep this game tied.
It's a great shot.
0-2 with 2 outs. Good take by Borges on a hard slider. Him 83 going straight down. Max Scherzer, strikeout number 7, and if that's the end of the line, finishing with a flourish tonight.
Key in the driver's seat. You got the feeling that momentum has changed because of this play by Anthony Rendon. And watch Maikel Franco take about 7 steps to get to the bag right there. That extends the inning to Bryce Harper, who with the shift on hits a line drive. What would have been at shortstop, goes to left field. There's your driver's seat. And then Ryan Zimmerman cashing in with a bullet to right, tying this game at 3.
About as tough an inning as you can have on both sides of the ball.
Max Scherzer, gamer.
116 pitches, 79 strikes. See if the Nats can make him a potential winner tonight. Worth, first pitch, breaking ball drops in from Vince Velasquez.
And did he get a hug from his manager? What we got? Pat on the back. They're still getting used to all this love in the dugout. Still April, give them time. Although Dan Uggla was a big hugger, but he wasn't your manager, so they're getting used to it. Gutty performance by Max Scherzer tonight.
Fastball up and in on 0-2. Jason Worth down for the third time. For Velasquez, he has fanned Worth twice, so 3 on the night. Michael A. Taylor, base hit, a walk and a run, and then big blows by Harper and Zimmerman. Rice got the Nats back to within a run. Zimmerman tied it in the 5th, and earlier tonight after the Murphy double and a wild pitch, Danny Espinosa sacrifice bunt for the second out. Scored that way at least for the first RBI. Little squibber off to the left side, and Franco throws out Danny Espinosa. 2 quick outs. 3:30 this afternoon. A mid-afternoon ride for Mr. Rivera. Good to see him in the cage and smiling.
Said he felt good after taking some hacks today. Didn't feel anything.
Such a positive presence on the ball club. Itching to get back out there. Ben Revere 0 for 2 in Atlanta, and he was actually hurt in the first at bat, then had another at bat, some defense in between. There's Jose Lobaton 0 for 2. Clint Robinson waiting to hit for Max Scherzer. Swing and a miss. Lobaton gone. And Velasquez 97 miles an hour on his last pitch of the 6th inning. Reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Washington Nationals. On to the top of the 7th here at Nationals Park. Another crazy sort of evening. To the bullpen we go, the UPS store. Together there's nothing we can't solve. Visit the upsstore.com for locations, and you will find Oliver Perez coming into the game. And for the sake of a little fun, he's due to bat first at the bottom of the 7th.
Well, hopefully leads it off with a base hit bunt. Fastball, slider, 2-pitch guy. Fastball 91. Slider 80.
Odubel Herrera, now over his last 7 games, is batting .391 with 7 walks, a sac fly, and an on-base percentage of .516. He has walked twice and singled tonight, scoring a run. Herrera facing Perez for the first time.
I mean, he's aggressively patient, if that makes any sense. Watching Herrera over the last 2 years, I mean, he's not a passive hitter by any means. He's just really focused in on a zone. And if it's not there, he's taking it. But I think he's really taken it to the next level this year.
I mean, what do you do about a curveball like that? Probably felt like the ball was going behind him. Mercedes-Benz will track a great hook. Wow.
He's first in the National League, seeing 4.93 pitches in at-bat.
There's another one. Sean Kelly is up. Suddenly Blake Trinan is well rested after having Sunday off. Then the ball club's off day yesterday. Jonathan Papelbon only threw 2 pitches in that game Sunday to get a couple of outs in the 10th inning. So he should be good to go. And Oliver Perez hooking Odubel Herrera, and that's the 8th strikeout by the Nats tonight.
Well, that was the Louis Tiant numbers to home plate drop down slider for strike 3. There you go. Turns his back. Whoop.
Hello.
Little pause on top of it. Then the frisbee. Just love watching this guy pitch, don't you? Got great energy about him every time he takes the mound.
Yeah, it's an event. Now Andres Blanco turns around to bat right-handed. He's 0 for 3 this year from this side of the plate, and career against Perez 1 for 1 with a double.
Standard delivery right there, 93. It's not like he's just flipping 83 up there. He's got a good fastball on top of his slider.
Yeah.
And then add deception and tack on a few more miles an hour.
Yeah, when he goes hook, there's a wide range between the 2 different speeds.
I got the spin move right here. What do you got?
20-some miles an hour. There you go.
Yep.
Look at that ball served in the left field by Blanco, who's starting to become a Nats nemesis here. Won the game for them in Philadelphia, and he's 3 for 4 tonight, hitting the ball hard 4 times.
Well, pretty good piece of hit right here. And not a bad pitch. It's probably right where he wanted it to be. And Blanco, who's having a huge night, like you said, 3 for 4 and a triple away from the cycle.
2 for 2 with 2 doubles career now against Perez. And the hitter will be Maikel Franco, who has hit the ball to Anthony Rendon 3 times in a row.
Franco hitting 167 against lefties this year, 3 for 18. If you're wondering why Dusty Baker's leaving Oliver Perez in to face him.
One 1 to Franco. And the ball hit pretty well to center. Taylor going back. Can't make the play. It's off the wall. Coming around to score is Blanco. Franco hurt himself somewhere around first base and goes limping into second with an RBI double. Phillies have the lead again.
I didn't see what happened to Franco coming around first base, but he had a 2 home run game on the road trip at Milwaukee, and you're thinking this one's out of here. Michael Taylor gave it a good run, a good effort, was there. But you see him making that last little correction where he has to kind of go back to his right, and then Franco, did he touch first base?
Well, you see a ball like that hit the wall, you're thinking the hitter might have 3, maybe 4 bags on a play like that. But he barely made it to second base.
Now Michael Taylor thinking he should have come up with that one, but he had to go a long way. And like we talked about on the last road trip with Taylor, when you're going full speed for a ball, your head's moving. Watch his head. See it kind of bouncing at the end when he tries to make that last second correction. So when your head is moving and you're going full speed and you're looking up at a baseball, the ball's actually jumping around. You're looking at a moving baseball. It's going back and forth because your eyes are moving with it. And so when he reached up for that baseball, the last thing he saw was it in one spot because his head was bouncing. It wasn't there. Fence approaching, a lot of stuff going on. Pretty good effort.
Franco stays, and now Darren Ruff will hit for Ryan Howard. That'll prompt Dusty to go to Sean Kelly. They were waiting for Ruff to be announced. So Oliver Perez got the strikeout, and then he got hit hard by Blanco and Franco. And the Nats a little deeper into their bullpen here in a 1-run game, top of the 7th inning. On top, plenty of baseball left, and then Sean Kelly's got to come in, get Ruff and Rupp, and keep this a 4-3 game. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you have come to expect. You can visit MLB.TV for details. Some blackout, others restrictions apply. Every out-of-market game live in HD.
That includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium.
See the arsenal for Sean Kelly. Fastball 89, slider 81. He loves the slider. He's thrown it 61% of the time this year. That's the most he's ever thrown it. Last year he threw it 55%.
Darren Ruff 0 for 1 career against him.
I'll tell you what, very rarely in baseball do you get a chance to make up for a mistake, but Maikel Franco right there, we showed him shaking his head at third base. Nobody felt worse than he did for not turning the double play another way, and then he gets the opportunity and hits it off the wall.
Yeah, that was his 14th RBI of the year. Mixed bag with runners in scoring position tonight. Bryce Harper added on to his RISP batting average, which came in at .600. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Kelly to Ruff. And it's a good thing he got around early, because that ball was hanging up and it got hit real hard.
See that dot on the slider? Acted more like a changeup right there. Ruff out front.
That ball sitting up and popped way up. Danny Espinosa. Or the second out, a very important out for the Nats. And that'll bring in Cameron Rupp, the catcher. Top of the 7th inning at Nationals Park. Good crowd. They've seen a real uphill battle for the home team all night. Rupp 0 for 1 against Kelly. Sporting that ERA 0 in his 8th appearance here. He's allowed an inherited runner or 2 to score, but bounced back nicely from that first real rough outing in Atlanta. One ball, 2 strikes. Big, strong Cameron Rupp, 6'2", 260, 227 career hitter. And he hits one on the left side. Anthony Rendon to his left. So the bullpen gives up a run. Kelly comes back to get 2 key outs. Number 9 spot due up, then the top of the order.
Stretch here in D.C. One of the many positive things about Sunday's win over the Twins is that it showed this Nationals ball club that they have the ability to come back late in a game when they trail. Dusty Baker saying earlier today, and a couple players telling me as well, that's something that not all teams have. And when you're able to show those type of wins earlier on in the season, it develops that confidence in you that you can come back when you're in a tough spot. Already this season, the Nationals have 6 comeback wins, 2 of which came in games when they trailed going to the 9th inning. Last year, they only had 3 such wins when they trailed going to the 9th inning. In 2014, guys, we saw a lot of comeback victories from the Nationals. This year, early on, we've seen a lot of those type of wins as well.
All adding up to a 14-4 start. Jonathan Papelbon lurking. Darren Ruff at first base. And Matt Den-Decker pinch hitting. Dan, with our Coons.com sideline report, over 2 million vehicles sold and counting. Matt Den-Decker as a pinch hitter this year, 2 for 7, couple of RBIs. And here's right-handed 30-year-old David Hernandez.
Yeah, fastball curveball change. Fastball average is 93. Did you see Ben Revere crushing a snack in that shot we just showed? Everybody else with rally caps on. It just goes to show you after 5 hours and 56 minutes how hungry everyone was. Dusty talking about it in the paper the next day. He said fans were yelling, "Come on, let's go, I'm hungry." Dusty said, "I'm hungry too."
Den-Decker can't catch up on a couple of occasions with that high outside fastball. Taylor on base twice, a single, a walk, and a run scored.
See him peeking down to third base right there, seeing where Franco's playing, thinking about a base hit bunt. That's all you can do as a hitter too, is peek, because if you turn your head, you're giving it away. And what you do last second, you just kind of take a peek down there and see if he's creeping in on you, or if he's staying back.
Taylor 0 for 2 career against Hernandez. Got a fastball, drives it up the middle. So in the good signs you're looking for department, Michael A. Taylor has a base hit to right and one right up the middle tonight.
Well, another 2-hit game for Michael Taylor. Nicely done. On base 3 times tonight, being a good leadoff hitter, starting to heat up. Good swing right back up the middle. That's perfect.
Anthony Rendon 1 for 1 career against Hernandez.
Look for him to be aggressive right here. Let's see how quick Hernandez is to the plate. Michael Taylor, that is. Oh, that's real aggressive. Look at the jump Michael Taylor just got. My goodness. I mean, he took off before Hernandez even started to home. Watch this jump, folks. Is this a good jump? Yeah, I'd say so. 4 or 5 steps. Once you're out there, I mean, just keep going.
Michael A. 3 for 4 on the year, and that's the tying run. I mean, that's a big-time defensive lapse by the Phillies battery.
Best jump ever.
Anthony Rendon, 1 RBI on the year. Please, Anthony, don't make us say this again. He's due to knock one in. He's got the count in his favor, and a step off by David Hernandez. Larry Boa, Pete Mackanin.
Pete Mackanin waving his second baseman off right there. He wants to get range. It's a tough position for Cesar Hernandez right now. You have a right-handed hitter up there. So with a right-handed hitter as a second baseman, it's your job to keep a plus runner close. But you have a right-handed hitter that likes to hit the ball to the right side. So for Hernandez and Pete Mackanin, they're just saying let Michael Taylor go. I mean, there's nobody near him right now. I guess they don't want to give up range up by 1 to hold a runner on here. Larry Boa, former shortstop, knows all about it. Pete Mackanin, too, a middle infielder.
Oh, my.
Whoa.
Oh, my.
Well, you expect a few of those Well, I'll just stop right there and you can look at it again. You know where I was going with that.
Nissan, that one was under the chassis, and it's 2 balls, 1 strike.
Oh, my goodness.
Anthony keeps his cool and takes a slider outside. Bryce Harper on deck. Don't want to walk him in front of Harper. And Anthony Rendon.
Well,
important for Anthony Rendon to be on first base, so they have to pitch to Bryce.
What's a humongous pitch coming?
Yep. 4-3 ball game, bottom of the 7th. Rendon to right. 2 outs. So we should be seeing Hernandez against Zimmerman here.
Well, Zimmerman made you pay last time.
Yeah.
But
Bryce is making everybody pay every time.
This could be his 3rd walk of the night right here. Or you bring in a lefty to face Bryce. What's Pete McCann going to do?
He's got Elvis Araujo out there.
This could be a stall piece to get the left-hander in. What's he going to do? I say you walk him, but what do I know? Yeah, I think he's going to walk him. I said 15 times in the series. I was exaggerating, but it might happen. It's the 3rd walk tonight for Bryce. Fourth intentional, right, Carp, on the season?
Bryce Harper, by the way, 1 for 3 career against David Hernandez. Ryan Zimmerman is 2 for 8 against him with a couple of walks. So Ryan has seen this guy before with Baltimore and with Arizona and with the Phillies. So here comes Bob McClure. (4-9-1) Phillies. 3-6-0 Nats here in the bottom of the 7th. Harper and Zimmerman have the hits with runners in scoring position. Right on the edge to even the count, 1-1.
Ryan, 279 against right-handers coming into tonight's game on the year.
A chance for the Nats with now a fairly well-rested bullpen to get back even or take the lead here in the 7th. Ryan in swing mode That thing ended up way beyond his bat. 2-2.
He looked at his gloves after the swing. I think his hand kind of came loose in the middle of this swing. Yeah, I did see his top hand come off right there, and then he looks at his glove.
Ooh, that one front door. Zimmerman walks away, and the Nats still trail 4-3 as this tight ball game goes into the 8th inning. Baseball on Masson, brought to you by T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. By visitannapolis.org. Create your moment at visitannapolis.org. And by the DC Lottery Racing President's Scratcher. Play all four today. DC Lottery. Lots of people win.
Pretty cool.
Nighttime from over there on Potomac Avenue, right behind first base here. Here's Matt Belisle for the Nats.
And 6 appearances, 1.59 ERA. Fastball, slider, curveball change combination. Opponent's hitting .273.
At the age of 35, throwing the ball well for the Nats so far. David Lowe pops one out of play. Facing Matt for the first time. It'll be Lowe, Hernandez, and then the pitcher spot for the Phillies here, top 8. Line drive, Ryan Zimmerman. Right there, 1 out. Cesar Hernandez, 3 for 3 tonight. Got to raise his career batting average against Washington pitching, up over 325 or so.
There's something going on with Matt Belisle. Everyone kind of walking to the mound. He's taking his time. Now Jose Lobaton out there, and here comes Mike Maddox. I didn't see anything, but he backed off the mound. Everybody kind of walking toward the mound at the same time. Dusty is saying, okay. I don't think Dusty's going to take a chance, so somebody's coming in this game.
And the director of athletic training, Paul Lessard, is out of the dugout. They will observe as he throws a pitch or two.
So here's the last pitch. Let's all check it out together. Looks back at the mound, then looked down at his right arm and kind of opened his hand and looked at his arm at the same time.
Now, we were showing you the replay. He threw one warm-up toss.
They're looking down at the bullpen right now. Dusty and Mike Maddox.
A lot of people facing the right field corner. Nothing happening yet. And here comes the signal. So it'll be Felipe Rivero as the left hand came up, and Matt Belisle is going to be done after one batter. Felipe Rivero is on his way in to have as long as he wants to warm up here.
You got no need to take any chances in April if you feel anything. Err on the side of caution, and that's what Dusty Baker, Mike Maddox, and the training staff are going to do with Matt Belisle.
So Belisle retires David Lowe. He's going to hand Felipe the baseball. Usually the manager does that. Interesting. That's the crew chief, Ted Barrett, involved.
What's Ted Barrett
somehow
saying? Is he saying that Dusty has to hand the ball to Felipe? And Daniel Murphy, excuse me, saying it doesn't matter who hands the ball to him? Yeah, we can't go to break yet. I got to see what's going on here. I think he's asking,
is it absolutely necessary for the manager to hand the ball to the reliever?
I don't know.
Never seen this. So Dusty may be coming out.
Are they just asking if it's straight up or a double switch? What's going on here? That's all they want to know on the card.
Yeah, that may be the thing. Dusty came out to replace him because of the injury, and now maybe
I think
it's a double switch.
Yeah, Clint Robinson's going to go to first.
Ryan Zimmerman was the last Nat to bat. He's still on the infield. We will sort it all out for you momentarily.
On the mound. All kinds of, I guess, sort of drama, trying to figure out what's going on. Ted Barrett on the mound, wondering if it's a straight up, and then Pete McCann comes out and talks to Angel Hernandez, and he said, we read his lips during the break. He said, did he tell you it was a double switch before he walked off the mound? You could see him asking Angel Hernandez. And then you see Pete McCann say he did. And that's all Pete McCann wanted to find out was, were they told it was a double switch, or did he do it once he got back to the dugout?
Well, I don't see what difference that makes, because that's a pitcher's injury for the reason, you know, Dusty went to the mound. So I know they always stop and visit with the umpire before they go out there, but this was an injury situation. So the hitter is Cesar Hernandez, and he faces Felipe Rivero for the 4th time, and Hernandez is 2 for 3 career against him. '87 on the changeup to the outside edge at the knees. That is filthy for the 2nd out of the inning.
Look at you dropping filthies on the air, Carp. I love it. 3-pitch see ya, change up way out in front, gearing up for 97.
You struck me on.
See the change up right there.
Here's Manny Burris, one of our local guys out of DC, to hit for David Hernandez, who gave up a hit, an intentional walk, struck out 2, and pitched that scoreless bottom of the 7th inning. Manny Burris out of Woodrow Wilson High School right here. Drafted originally by the Giants, 33rd overall pick back in '06. Up there hacking, and he's 0 for 1 this year as a pinch hitter. Pardon me, let me correct that. He's 1 for 8. No balls, 2 strikes. Soft liner, Anthony Rendon right there. So Belial and Rivero team up for a scoreless 8th. Here comes Daniel Murphy. Nats down by just 1. Series tomorrow night. Jeremy Hellickson hit hard by the Nats in Philadelphia against Washington. Career 0-2 with an 8.78 ERA. Gio Gonzalez 8-5 career against the Phillies. Gio pitching some of his best baseball ever for this ball club. Control numbers 5-1 strikeout to walk ratio. It gets you going at 6:30 with Nats Extra FP and I join you from the booth straight up 7 o'clock. And to your right, Tanner Roark. He'll go Thursday afternoon. Let's go inside the numbers with Jeep. Best records in baseball. The Nats on top. Cubs have been outstanding lately. And the Mets are hanging in there. They've won 4 straight going into tonight's game. Third Philly pitcher of the night is 26-year-old Hector Neris.
And that fastball slider splits the out pitch. It's a split change. He throws it 53% of the time. So it's actually his primary pitch. Fastball 44%, split 53.
Daniel Murphy. Pretty good matchup. 4 for 7 career against him. Two and 0. Three in a row, almost the same spot. Worth, Espinosa, the next 2 for the Nats. Here in the bottom of the 8th.
I think you take one here, down by 1, try to get on.
Yeah, Murph swung on a 3-0 pitch last time and lined out to right field with 2 men aboard in the 5th inning. Daniel Murphy takes the leadoff walk. His 8th of the year. He's on for the 2nd time tonight.
A good at bat. It looked like he got a 3-0 split, though. It was 90 miles an hour. It looked slower than the fastball and had tons of movement. Maybe just really got inside a sinker. Boy, Jason Worth has the whole right side of the infield. Look at the way they're playing him. Hernandez right up the middle. Look at the hole right here.
Jason 1 for 4 with a home run career against Neris. So everything away to Murphy. Walked him. First pitch way away to Worth. And he gets a visit from Cameron Rupp and Andres Blanco, catcher and shortstop. Emmanuel Burris told me during batting practice today that Pete Mackanin has done a great job of fostering a winning attitude in the Phillies clubhouse. They're 9-10. A lot of people thought they'd be about 5-14 by this time this year. And he said these guys are fighting. They're pulling together. They're playing hard. Trying to be tough to beat.
But he's just very positive, very upbeat, and a great communicator and a great teacher of the game. So it doesn't surprise me. He's as loose and as funny as Dusty Baker. You just wouldn't look at him and think of that during the game because he's so intense once the game starts.
Ball 2. It's really ball 6. To left center, and the ball carries right to David Lowe, who is playing him way off the line. 1 out.
You know, if you're going to swing at a guy that's struggling to throw strikes, you do exactly what Jason Worth did right there. He just hit it too hard. I mean, he got his pitch, his spot, put a good swing on it, gets any elevation on it. The Nats take the lead, but he hits a bullet right to David Lowe, and it's a hang with him for Jason Worth. Good swing, no luck. A little frustration here with the helmet. Did all he could do.
Can't hit it any harder. Danny Espinosa next. 0 for 2. Sacrifice bunt for an RBI back in the 2nd. Facing Hector Neris for the first time. Runner goes.
That's a hit and run.
Yeah, hit and run with Murphy never looking back.
But I thought that Dusty might do it in a 1-0 count just for the fact that Neris hasn't thrown many strikes, but he went to it 0-0 right there, and you see him clap his hands. Could have been a straight steal too. He didn't look back. Might have been wrong on that hit and run call.
Yeah, Murphy had a pretty good jump. Short lead by Daniel. 0-1 to Danny. And he's locked up on a pitch in the dirt. 10 o'clock hour here at Nationals Park. 4-3 ball game. Lots of things happening. The Nats have employed 5 pitchers. The Phillies 4. And a long night here at the Yard so far. Nats have been battling back ever since the second batter of the game, Andres Blanco, hit one over the scoreboard to make it 2-0.
So we talked about Max Scherzer's categories: burner, fast, stealth, and not at all. I would put Daniel Murphy in the stealth category. If you don't pay attention to him, he'll steal a base. Borderline fast, so somewhere in between fast and stealth.
0-2. Espinosa fights one off and fouls it off to the left side. Murphy's on base percentage of .465 goes up a little bit tonight. 2 for 4 in that category. Nats are looking for their first hit from the bottom 4 hitters in the order, not named Max Scherzer. Murphy on the move, and Espinosa fouls it. Potomac Nationals are back home right now through May 1st. Check out your tickets at 703-590-2311 or visit PotomacNationals.com. Better yet, visit Fitzner Stadium down in Woodbridge. Bottom of the 8th inning, the Nats trail 4-3. Murphy trying to get into scoring position. Danny Espinosa strikes out. 2 outs. It'll be up to Jose Lobaton. Lobaton 0 for 1 career with a walk, facing Hector Neris.
Well, you see why Dusty Baker double switched. If the inning gets to Clint Robinson, and he hadn't, he would have had to pinch hit and go to another pitcher in the bullpen and go even deeper into his pen on guys that he wasn't planning on using. And you also see why Pete McCannon would have loved for that to happen.
Yeah, that might be an interesting question for Dusty after the game, when you go out because there's a pitcher injured, do you have to go ahead and make the double switch before you're back in the dugout?
Well, why don't you stick around and ask him?
I might.
Okay.
I think we got a guy who could do that.
Well, Dan's standing right next to him right now. Do you think?
No, we can wait till after the game, Dan. Don't bother him right now.
He's right there. Just ask him. Murphy started to go and then stopped.
Right now, Hector Neris slipping the ball by everybody. Contact needed to keep this inning alive. Clint Robinson waiting. 1-2 to Lobaton. And a 1-2. Strikeouts to Espinosa and Lobaton, ending the bottom of the 8th inning. Still a 1-run game. 1 inning to go.
Time for your Cricket wireless play of the game. Cricket, something to smile about. Well, if you're Michael Franco, you're smiling about this. A bolt off the wall in left center. That put his ball club up by 1. Little man down coming around first base. Glad he's okay. And he made up for the miscue on the double play. So that's your Cricket wireless play of the game.
Yeah, hard fall going around that bag. Top of the 9th inning coming up. Felipe Rivero still pitching for the Nats. He'll face Peter Borges, Odubel Herrera, and Andres Blanco. And the Phillies get their bullpen busy with their closer.
Bryce Harper due up 4th in the bottom of the 9th. Remember, he hit a home run off Genmar Gomez in Philadelphia in the 10th inning.
Yeah, that put the Nats in a position to sweep that series. Peter Borges facing Felipe Rivero for the first time. Big hook. Just got a piece of it. And Felipe gets 87 by the right-handed hitting Borges. Second strikeout in 3 batters.
I mean, when you think of Felipe Rivero, you think of 97, but the changeup has become such a deadly weapon for him. All the other hitters he's facing are thinking about 97. He's pulling the string.
Here's Herrera. Pair of walks, a base hit. The next 2 batters have been on base 6 times tonight, driven in 3 runs. Danny Espinosa waiting for that one. 2 outs.
Did you get your Teddy plush window cling thing today?
Yeah, I got it somewhere.
Did you? I'm going to put mine on my monitor for Rally Teddy for the 9th. And then I'm going to let my dog have at it when I get home.
That won't take long.
Yeah, he's going to tear this thing apart. Right here, look, I'm putting it on my monitor. Going to bring good luck before he gets home, and that's the end of Teddy. There you go. There's your Teddy plush window cling. There you go. They got some rally Teddies going on. I like it. Upside down Teddy for a run or 2, hopefully.
2-0 to Andres Blanco, who was 0 for 2 career against Felipe Rivero. But that's Robinson, Taylor, Rendon, and as FP mentioned, if it gets far enough, Bryce Harper. Mets came from behind to beat the Reds tonight 4-3 in New York, so they've won 5 in a row. Braves beaten by Boston handily 11-4.
Mets are hitting taters all over the place.
And Cespedes has heated up, hasn't he? Here's Blanco on base for the 4th time. Johnny and Phil are in the ballpark tonight. We invite you to tune into the Nats Extra postgame show presented by WB Mason when this one is over. Maikel Franco. The best of times and the worst of times for him, a tale of 2 ball games. 0 for 1 career against Felipe Rivera, who checks the runner Blanco. Andres Blanco has not attempted a stolen base. Chopper got him in the foot.
I'll tell you what, he doesn't get cheated. I mean, he's very aggressive. If you make a mistake, look out, because he's swinging from his heels no matter what the count is. And like I said in Philadelphia, until he shows you he's a good bad ball hitter, don't throw him a strike. You're going to force the issue. Make him hit your pitch, right?
32 years of age, been in the big leagues for 9 years. 0-1 pitch, up and away. Broke in with the Royals in 04. Been with the Cubs, the Rangers, and the Phillies since 14. I mean, he hit .277 his first year. .292 in 106 games last season. Tough out. Puts the ball in play. And Rivero goes 92 to get it by him. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Off speed, Rendon. Long throw to second, got him. Defense tight as usual tonight. The Nats need one or more. Robinson, Taylor, Rendon, maybe Harper. Here comes Gomez.
Tonight at Nationals Park, Johnny Holiday along with Phil Wood. We invite you to stick around for our Nets Extra post-game show just a couple of minutes away. We hope we'll be talking about a Nationals win, pulling this baby out in the last of the ninth.
Well, they've had some success against Jeanmar Gomez before. We'll see what happens this evening, but obviously you want at least the fourth hitter coming up to get up to bat here in the bottom of the ninth.
And of course the Nationals battling tonight to come from behind to tie it, then Philadelphia takes the lead, so it's never over till possibly we get a shot from Bryce Harper tonight.
Until it's over, that's correct.
Until it's over, that's correct. And thinking a bit, if it's over, let's go back up top to Bob and FP to make sure it's not over in the bottom of the ninth inning.
Well, Johnny, we will do whatever we can. Clint Robinson will get the first crack at Jeanmar Gomez.
Yeah, fastball slider change from Gomez. Fastball average is 91. Slider 83, change 82. 2-0, 2.45 ERA. 9 strikeouts to 3 walks. Opponents hitting 195. Look at right-handers, 273 against Jeanmar Gomez.
Clint Robinson already in the ball game, so not a pinch hitting appearance for him. Let's check some matchups here. Robinson 1 for 3 career with an RBI against the Philadelphia closer Jeanmar Gomez.
The rally hats on. They're thinking right. Did you see the fan when Chris Heisey went deep, the walk-off on Sunday, that had the backwards Bryce jersey on? He was thinking right. Right over the bullpen, had a backwards jersey on. Rally everything on that game. And same goes here. Why not?
Gomez 11 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs. Not a big strikeout guy. 9 Ks, 3 walks in those 11 innings. Robinson takes a strike. Low 90s to the inside edge.
A dangerous pitch in a 1-run game if you're going inside, but he started it off the plate and ran it back.
Tapper left side. Franco on the charge. Plenty of time. 1 out. Really good night for Michael A. Taylor. 3rd inning base hit, 5th inning walk and a run, 7th inning base hit and a stolen base. Taylor 1 for 5 against Gomez's career.
Big time downward action on that 85.
Dusty Baker would love to have his wheels aboard here, down by 1.
Holds on too long, ball 2. Gomez, 1 previous career save before this year, 1 back with the Pirates in 2014, and 4 for the Phillies so far.
So he's trying to make him use the big part of the ballpark. Everything has been away here, and he's going 2-1 fastball away too.
Target low and away. Well, that was the pitch that a couple of innings ago was a strike to Anthony Rendon.
We had body language from 3 different players right there. The pitcher, the catcher, and the hitter. Saw Taylor kind of squat after he thought it was close. Cameron Rupp thought it was close, and so did Gomez.
Taylor got a pitch up, chopping over the top of it, and the count is full with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. Yeah, pitch number 4 was definitely not a strike. Two outs. Nance down to Rendon to try to get aboard for Harper.
That was a nasty sinker. You usually don't see sinkers do what that one just did. That had split action at 92 miles an hour. Got to pitch 3-1 though.
Rendon right center. That'll drop. And guess who's coming to the plate one more time?
All right. I mean, this is all you can ask if you're Dusty Baker, to have Bryce Harper hit here. Down by 1. We'll go back to April 17th. Top of the 10th inning. Tie ball game. Bryce Harper, I think on a 3-2 pitch, went into the Phillies bullpen bathroom. And he put his ball club up, fired us all up. And here we go, game on.
So Harper against Gomez, 2-for-2 career with that home run.
I mean, you can't pitch around him and put the tying run on second base for Stephen Drew, can you? I mean,
yeah, pitcher spot next. Harper tonight, he's been on the field since 7:05 and he's 1 for 1. Walk in the first, intentional walk in the third, RBI single the other way in the 5th inning. They walked him intentionally again in the 7th.
Looking for a mistake. I mean, I don't think Anthony Rendon's going anywhere. I mean, you got to let Bryce Harper hit and hope he walks you off here. If you're the Nats, Pete McCannon kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
1-0 pitch.
Well, you heard the crowd with the big O at 91, little late sink. Maybe just a hair out front. He was geared up.
Yeah, keeping the ball away.
I'm not giving him anything to pull. I mean, you're ahead 1-2 right here. If he's going to beat you and he hits it into your own bullpen, tip your cap. But this has to be away, 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 away the rest of the sequence. I don't think he's going to try that front hip sinker. We'll see, but he'd be better suited to stay away to Bryce. Not that he can't shoot you out that way. It's just a little bit harder than the pull side where all of his home runs have been. Yeah, they're going out there.
Harper pops it up. Over by the dugout and 2 rows out of play. If that.
Well, look where Cameron Rupp was set up. He was set up in the right-handed batter's box, and watch where this pitch is. I mean, he's set up off the plate away. Watch the location of the pitch. Right down the middle, just a hair high, and he couldn't get on top. And he lives to fight another pitch, but that was a mistake by Jemar Gomez.
Foul ball.
And I believe the pitch he hit out in Philadelphia was a slider, if I'm not mistaken, from Gomez.
So Bryce Harper 8 for 12 against the Phillies with all those power numbers attached.
Make baseball fun again, rally on Teddy. All right, I'm in. I mean, you see Cameron Rupp shaking his head like good pitch, but that's not. I mean, it's right down the middle. And I think this is the last place that Bryce Harper expected this pitch. Look at the location. He wants it off the plate away. He pulled it right down the middle. Whoa.
Counts even 2-2.
I was watching the reaction of the fans in the background after every pitch. Everybody on their feet here. And if you stayed the whole game, this is worth it, right?
Some have learned that lesson. Harper to the left side, off the end of the bat. Franco throws him out, and the Phillies win it. The season series is now even between Washington and Philadelphia. So Jemar Gomez gets his 5th save of the year. 4-9-1 Phils, 3-7-0 Nats. For FP and Dan, Bob Carpenter. It was a long one tonight, right around 3 hours and 25 minutes. Tomorrow, it's Gio Gonzalez for the Nats, and it's Jeremy Hellickson for the Phillies. Nats Extra, 6:30 from the ballpark. This has been a presentation of Masson. Stay tuned now. Johnny and Phil from the park here, and the Nats made it close. The comeback didn't happen tonight. So long for just a while.